The mood was explosive. There were acts of sabotage, clashes, deaths. In Berlin, too, the situation was tense. In August 1923, the government stepped down because of the Ruhr crisis. President Friedrich Ebert had to nominate a new chancellor. It was a tough decision.
Wart. Ich habe mich nicht nach diesem Amt gedrängt. Wie die Dinge stehen, ist es eigentlich politischer Selbstmord.
On the 13th of August 1923, Ebert appointed Stresemann chancellor.
When Stresemann became chancellor, it was a political suicide mission. The Reich was in its most serious crisis since the end of the war. The Ruhr struggle had been going on for 7 months. The economy of the Ruhr and the Rhineland was at a standstill. Hyperinflation was raging, and no one knew what would become of Germany. When Stresemann said his acceptance of office was political suicide, he didn't just mean it metaphorically. We mustn't forget Rathenau and Erzberger. Politicians were being murdered in those days.
Money was being printed all the time to finance the Ruhr crisis. The currency lost any value it once had.
Inflation became an elemental German trauma. People had the experience that everything they had saved, including the war loans they had made to the state, was simply lost. This had serious effects on people's confidence in the state.
Einen schweren Stoß versetzt.
Stresemann had to act. To end the inflation, he stopped the passive resistance policy in the Ruhr. But he also had to answer to Parliament.
The Reich is the only thing we have left in the collapse we have experienced. To preserve it now is the duty we have to fulfill.
It was a brave speech. The right accused him of treason and surrendering to the French. Once again, they said, the Republic had brought the nation to defeat. But he had no choice.
Wir haben den passiven Widerstand im Ruhrgebiet abgeworfen.
He was answered with shouts of coward. One deputy said it would cost him his head. Let's hope so, shouted another. Others thought he was abandoning the people of the Ruhr.
As for the ending of passive resistance, the courage to take this step is perhaps more nationalist than all the slogans directed against it. I know that I'm putting my political future, maybe even my life, on the line. But what do the German people lack? We lack the courage to take responsibility.
Stresemann's ending of passive resistance was the moment when he took responsibility for a most unpopular act. And in that sense, it was the high point, or a high point, because it showed statesmanlike qualities, knowing that he would be accused of signing a second Versailles.
There were rebellions all over the country. In Koblenz, there were attempts to set up a separate Rhineland Republic. In Saxony and Thuringia, there was an alliance between communists and social democrats. A red revolution threatened. Stresemann sent in the army. But the main threat came from the right, in the south of the Republic. In Munich, the Bavarian government mobilized against Berlin. Taking control of the troops based there, it joined forces with the so-called Fatherland associations, extreme right-wing bodies, including Hitler's National Socialist German Workers' Party. They intended to march on Berlin. The Chancellor was well aware of this. He could deploy the army against the communists in Saxony and Thuringia, but would it put down a right-wing coup?
Reichskanzler, General von Sieg für Sie.
So einfach.
Der General.
General von Sieg, schön Sie zu sehen. Bitte nehmen Sie Platz.
Danke.
General Hans von...
The situation in Bavaria is explosive. Kahr, Lossow, and Hitler may strike at any moment. The army must be ready.
Mr. Chancellor, we cannot fight under men like you. You do not have the confidence of the troops.
So you refuse to follow my orders? Okay. We'll leave it at that. For the moment.
Very well.
A disobedient general. Why didn't Stresemann fire him?
Stresemann stand im Herbst.
In autumn 1923, the Reich seemed to be going up in flames. Stresemann was under enormous pressure. At that moment, he couldn't enter into open conflict with the High Command. So he played for time.
Zunächst einmal auf Zeit.
In Munich, the opponents of the Weimar Republic were mobilizing. On the 8th of November, Bavarian State Commissioner Gustav von Kahr held a rally in the Burger Braukeller, a beer hall. In his speech, he sought to whip up opposition to Berlin. He spoke of shameful treaties. But one man there was tired of words. He wanted action. Hitler saw his chance to strike. He demanded that the hesitant Bavarian government should join him. The host and all those present were taken off guard. But his words were lost in the hubbub. Witnesses later reported they regarded the whole thing as a pantomime.
Die nationale Revolution ist ausgebrochen. Der Saal ist von über 600 schwer bewaffneten Männern besetzt. Keiner kann den Saal verlassen.
But the hothead from the National Socialist German Workers' Party was serious.
Ich mache einen Vorschlag. Bis es endlich zur verdienten Abrechnung mit den Verrätern kommt. Die Deutschland heute zugrunde richten, übernehme ich die Führung der Nation. Ich werde das Deutsche Reich regieren. Die Regierung in Berlin ist abgesetzt.
Shortly before midnight, the news reached Berlin. Stresemann immediately called a crisis meeting. President Ebert was present. Both were aware that if it came to the crunch, only one man could suppress the coup.
General? What would be the attitude of the army if Hitler marched on Berlin at the head of Bavarian troops?
The army is behind me. General von Sieg, meinen Sie nicht auch, dass die neue Situation...
So what should we do? No. Without the army, we have no chance.
It was still totally uncertain who was really behind the coup. In Munich, the authorities hesitated to join Hitler. There was confusion in the hall.
Ich glaube, es ist an der Zeit, Ludendorff in den Saal zu bitten.
Hitler now revealed his trump card, the retired general Erich Ludendorff. During the war, he had been head of the High Command and was still very popular. Now, he was prepared to be the figurehead of Hitler's insurrection.
Meine Herrschaften, in dieser historischen Stunde dürfen Sie sich dem Ruf der Nation nicht versagen.
Off to Berlin, roared the crowd. The general's appearance clinched the matter. Von Kahr and the officers present joined the coup attempt.
Die Putschisten haben eine Regierung ausgerufen. Sie besteht aus General Ludendorff, Adolf Hitler, General von Lossow.
General von Lossow, an enemy of von Siegt's, was supposed to become the defense minister in the new government.
This is our chance. Siegt won't like this. Lossow and Hitler? He won't take orders from Lossow.
His rival Lossow was to be his boss?
Mr. President, gentlemen, we have to act. The coup must be suppressed.
Gentlemen, I propose to give General von Siegt extensive emergency powers.
Gehen wir. Was soll man da sagen? Ich bin sprachlos.
Now Siegt has everything he always wanted. He has power. Will he ever give it up?
He's a soldier to the bone. He won't try to topple the government.
Let's hope you're right.
Auf der einen Seite war es riskant.
On the one hand, giving von Siegt so much power was a risk. On the other hand, it put the ball in his court. He could no longer avoid doing what Stresemann wanted. In that sense, it was a clever move.
Munich on the morning of the 9th of November. At first, confusion reigned in the city, but gradually, word got around that Gustav von Kahr and General von Lossow had distanced themselves from Hitler. They claimed they'd been blindsided. But Hitler and Ludendorff didn't give up. With a march through downtown Munich, they hoped to win popular backing. Herrenhalle, where they found their way blocked by the Bavarian police, who had been ordered to stop the march by every means possible.
Das ist seine Exzellenz General Ludendorff!
It was never established who fired the first shot. One bullet only narrowly missed Hitler. The man next to him was killed, as were 15 other marchers and 4 policemen. Ludendorff was uninjured, but was arrested on the spot. Hitler escaped, but was apprehended 4 days.
Werdet ihr noch 10 Jahre lang spüren?
Stresemann was perhaps the only man to emerge from the Weimar Republic as a hero. The currency was stabilized by the ruthless but necessary introduction of the Rentenmark. The putsch had been put down. By Weimar standards, those were huge successes. But in politics, ingratitude, not the exception.
At first, Stresemann thought of retiring from politics completely.
Meine Frau sagt, sie begrüßen meinen Sturz. Vom ärztlichen kam jedenfalls zur rechten Zeit.
Stresemann was suffering from Graves' disease, a thyroid dysfunction that damages the heart and can lead to a stroke.
Sie müssen kürzer treten, Herr Stresemann, sonst kann ich bald nichts mehr für Sie tun. Sie müssen auf Ihren Mann Acht geben.
Sie glauben doch nicht wirklich, dass mein Mann ein ruhigeres Leben aushalten würde.
Warum denn nicht?
Rainer Marx schickt Ihnen das hier. Scheint dringlich zu sein.
Wilhelm Marx? Der Zentrumsmann? Man sagt, er wird der nächste Kanzler. Sagen Sie ihm, ich bin in einer Stunde da. Marx ist ein guter Mann. Mit dem könnte man zusammenarbeiten.
Du wirst dich nie ändern.
Stresemann was given the post of foreign minister in the new government. The Republic was on the road to recovery. People began to talk of the golden 20s. The quieter political situation, the new currency, and US loans allowed the economy to grow quickly. Cultural life boomed as well. The foreign minister's official residence became a center of social life. Kate Stresemann came to be seen as the First Lady of the Weimar Republic. Chancellors came and went, but the foreign minister remained in his post. He even had a suit named after him, the Stresemann. Striped trousers, grey waistcoat, dark coat, a trademark. The minister set the tone. And once he even appeared on the silver screen, one of the first to try out the new talkies, at a speed to match the roaring 20s.
Dass ich heute in der Lage bin, Ihr Bilder zu Ihnen zu sprechen, ist ein lebender Beweis dieser Entwicklung. Mögen beide Industrien fortschreiten in dieser Entwicklung. Möge es Ihnen möglich sein, nicht nur der Heimat, sondern auch draußen in der Welt, durch Ihre Erzeugnisse ein Bild zu geben von deutscher Geistes- und Schaffenskraft und dafür zu sorgen, dass deutscher Geist und die Anerkennung deutscher Technik auf die Welt durchbringen.
Stresemann also sought to leave his mark at the International Locarno Conference in Switzerland in 1925. He wanted to improve relations with Paris, not least by renouncing any claim to Alsace and Lorraine once and for all. It was a goodwill gesture that went down well with his French counterpart, Aristide Briand, who also wanted a new beginning. In return, Stresemann hoped for a speedy end to the occupation of the Ruhr and the Rhineland.
After the Ruhr, occupation forces must now be completely removed from the Rhineland, otherwise there will never be real peace between our peoples. The German people want peace, but the Versailles Treaty does not give them room to breathe.
Don't go on, or you'll make us all cry. I admire your boldness, but you must give us time. The French public have come nowhere near as far as you.
I know, but I don't know if I have time.
Stresemann hat einige Jahre nach dem Krieg eine...
A few years after the war, Stresemann realized that Germany could only be successful in its foreign policy if it also looked at things from the view of the other powers and cooperated with them.
Einstimmung mit den anderen Mächten Politik